So we're picking it up in Revelation chapter 14, and before we do, I just want to say let's say a prayer for Dennis. Dennis is having some difficulty, you probably know, with COVID, and then he went to the hospital, and then he left the hospital, and then he's went back to the hospital, and then he should be home by a little bit after now. Again, hopefully with some help towards feeling better. So let's say a prayer for them. Yeah, for Dennis. And there's other people to pray for, but we'll lift him up at the moment. God, we pray for Dennis and Jewel, that you'd comfort and help them at this time, that he would be made strong in you and comforted and restore him to good health, and very quickly, Lord, by your power, by your grace, by your strength, and comfort Jewel as well as she takes care of him, and lift them both up in the sweetness of the grace of Jesus Christ and the gospel of salvation as they go with love. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so we're on Revelation 14. We're part of the way through that. We did, remember, at the beginning of Revelation 14, we talked about the mark. Now, you hear a lot about the mark all over on social media these days, and you usually think about the mark of the beast. But that was Revelation 13. The mark that we're talking about in Revelation 14 is the mark on Christians. God's own name, the name of the Father, the name of the Lamb on our foreheads. So everybody in the world has a mark. Everybody. You can't avoid having a mark. Just which of the marks do you have? And the wonderful thing is you can't have two marks at the same time. You can only have one. And for us, it's Jesus' mark and the Father's mark, which is wonderful. As we've seen throughout Revelation, that's not just a mark identifying who you are, but it is a seal upon you to protect you. Remember that Revelation, I think it was 77, before judgment falls and God sends his wrath down through the angels to judge, he marks his own. And when they're marked, they're sealed for protection when God sends his wrath down upon the earth for man's injustice and sin. So it's great to have a good mark. So we're in the chapter of the great mark. Then we talked, though, about the three angels in mid-heaven giving words to those who dwell upon the earth. The first one says, fear God, give him glory, etc. The second one, fallen is Babylon the Great. That's really the apostate church, although it's all wickedness and antichrist in the world. And then you have the third angel was the judgment that would fall upon anybody who worshiped the beast and received its mark. That's the mark of the beast. Anybody who comes into allegiance with the kingdom of antichrist shall not inherit heaven. That's very stern. They shall, it says here, they shall drink the wine of God's wrath, poured unmixed into the cup of his anger, and they'll be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And that, an eternal agony. Think about that. The hard part about hell, I heard Charles Stanley, I think, once preached like 30 years ago. I heard him once in Maine on the radio. Can you believe he's still around? And I'm still around after all that? But anyway, somewhere around there he was saying that, I think it was Charles Stanley, but he said, the worst thing about hell is, it's pain, unquenchable fire, but that you never get out. There's no hope. It's one thing if you're in Sharp's jail over here or in a prison in Florida and you think you can get out in 15 years, 20, 99 years if you live so long. But this is where you never get out. Smoke goes up forever and ever. No hope, no hope. That's what he said was probably the worst part of it. Suffering, but without any hope of it changing, ever. Eternal despair. Unquenchable fire. And that's what it says here. The smoke of their burning goes up forever and ever. So let's remember how, what does Paul say? Romans 11. He says, note then the kindness and the severity of God. Right? So we need to keep both of those things in mind. His grace is amazing. It's beyond measure. It's astounding. No one's ever fully grasped how amazing it is. But so also his wrath, as Moses says in Psalm 90, who considers the outpourings of your anger? Something along those lines. So, it's devastating. And it says, who receives this? these worshipers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of its name. So, we're looking at a lot of stuff these days that a lot of Christians are saying, is this the mark of the beast? Is this the mark of the beast? Because they're talking now more and more worldwide about you can't buy or sell unless, you can't travel at least unless, you can't go here or there unless, you can't go to this place or that place unless. You got to wonder, I don't know whether there's a physical manifestation outwardly of the mark of the beast. I say it's an invisible mark. But nevertheless, the language is just too plainly parallel to ignore. If you hear, you can't do this or this or this unless you get that, and then you have any knowledge of Scripture, Revelation 13 pops into mind like instantly, at least as a close reference, right? So we should be on high alert, right, as Christians. Be discerning and keep our eyes open and stick with Christ. What you're doing, that's why you're here, right? That's why we're here. Praise God, He's going to keep us. We don't have to worry about that, but we do have to keep alert. Number 12, verse 12. Here's a call for the endurance and faith of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. So the word is for Christians to endure. That's the whole purpose of this passage, to encourage you to stand fast, hold the line, be loyal to the King, Jesus Christ. So, yes, this book is written for Christians. We're not raptured out and then it's for somebody else in some future world. This is for us. Now, this is where we pick it up. Verse 13, and I heard a voice, isn't this where we ended? And I heard a voice from heaven saying, write this, blessed are those who die in the Lord henceforth. Blessed indeed, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them. So then, isn't that typical of our Lord? After warning us with a stern and kind of dreadful warning to wake us up, He then, gives us a sweetness of a promise. You've always got that with the Lord, it seems. There's the stick to just make sure His children are awake, then there's the carrot to urge you on for the prize. And the prize is that, those who endure, and here's the voice that comes from heaven, from God, write this. Put these words down in a book. Let everybody hear them. By the way, that's a good message also for us to understand that God commands words to be written in a book. And we've got the book. It's not like God is some ethereal, floating, misty cloud, amorphous nothingness or something, or everythingness like Hinduism or something. He's the God who wants to act clearly and speaks to us direct words, and He even writes them in black and white letters for us on a page. That's pretty great. Or carved in letters of stone by His own finger, as it did in Moses. So isn't that great? God puts it in a book, and we've got the book. That's the Bible. And here's what the message is here. Blessed are those who die. Blessed, I believe, I have to look it up. I think that's the same word, Marcos, something like that. That means blessed or happy. Can mean the same thing. So you can say, blessed is this person. He's got God's favor and blessing. And happy is the person. Are those who die in the Lord henceforth. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Die where? In the Lord. So we always say that. Did He die in the Lord? That means, did He die in faith, having held fast to Christ to the end? Yes. And there's great blessings. The encouragement for us is not only do we hold fast to Christ, but the real hope is He holds fast to us. Right? No one can snatch you out of my hand, Jesus says. The Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one can snatch them out of the Father's hand. I and the Father are one. And so nobody can snatch you out of Jesus' hand. Yay. And nothing can separate you from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Be it heights or depth or angels or principalities or whatever there is, nothing can separate you from the love of God. Nothing can snatch you out of His hand. He who began a good work in you is going to bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. So, blessed are those who die in the Lord henceforth, or from now on. So, to die is an awesome thing as a Christian. Why is it awesome?
You see the face of Christ. You're on the way.
There's answers like that. To see the face of Christ, to be with Christ is far better when you die. You depart and be with Christ.
Taxes.
Philippians 1, no taxes. That's a good one. From whom do the kings of the earth exact their taxes? From their own sons or from others?
From others.
From others. Then the sons are free. So you're free of taxes, right? What else? Well, here in this verse, here's the blessing. I mean, there's 1,000 million blessings, but here's the blessing. Blessed indeed, says the Spirit. So the Holy Spirit's going to answer why you're blessed. He says that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them. So isn't that a good word for you? What are we doing right now, which is the images we're going to pick up in just the next couple of words, is we're farmers. We're working in the heat of the day. We've been hired for a denarius, right? We work through the heat of the day, no matter when God called us, early or late in life, and we bear the brunt of the heat of the day and the scorching sun and the sweat and on our brows and the tilling of the soil. What's that mean? We're laboring for the Lord, right, for His kingdom, to bring forth a harvest for Him of righteousness, kindness to others, good deeds that give glory to our Father in heaven, preaching, whatever you're doing to serve the Lord. That's hard work, isn't it? You know? The world treats this life as a vacation, and the temptation is for us to treat this life as a vacation, when in fact this is not vacation, this is work time for us. Work time comes for us now. Vacation comes when we die and have an eternity of no work. We cease from work. We enter God's rest, the seventh day, the Sabbath day, which is a foretaste of eternity. God rested on the seventh day from all His work, means He ceased to work. In heaven and in the world to come, you got nothing more, no more people to save, no more poor to feed, no more naked to clothe, no more prisoners to visit, just enjoying. My people will dwell in quiet habitations, and an abundance shall abound everywhere for you. Just enjoy each other. But this is the time to work and to labor. You know, I like that. If I can borrow Captain Bligh from Mutiny on the Bounty, although he was kind of, in a bad way, pictures, you know, Captain Bligh, he's always the bad guy kind of, but you know, when he gets in the Clark Gable movie, they get to Tahiti after sailing the Bounty over 2,700 nautical miles, and they arrive and drop anchor in Tahiti, and he addresses his crew after all the half-naked savages, women, whatever, come on the boat, and they're all thinking, oh, this is such a wonderful place, we're going to have so much fun here. And Bligh says, you know, I've brought the Bounty over 2,700 nautical miles. You think you've come to a tropical grog shop of feast and song and sun. You're wrong. You're here to labor. Shore leave permitted if and when I can spare you. Abuse it, you'll answer to me. So, I love that movie, okay. I only, watched 3 movies. But anyway, even though that's a bad kind of picture, in a sense, he's portrayed as bad, I kind of like that for thinking of this life and encouraging me. I'm not here in just a tropical grog shop to have a fun time. I'm here to get my job done, right? That doesn't mean you can't have fun along the way, or enjoy your work, or rest, or have times of vacation that God gives us. But as Christians, we always focus that we're here for a purpose. The world treats it as a vacation. We treat it as work time, you know? We're here fighting the good fight. We're waging war. We rest when we get back from Germany and the Battle of the Bulge and arrive back in Ohio. Then we rest, right? Right now we're overseas. We're not in our home country. When we get back to the land of the free up there, then we just go back to peaceful, normal life. Right now, we've got to contend, work, strive, seek to do what we can for the kingdom. And so, but when we die, we're happy, is the word. Blessed and happy there. We rest from our labors. We cease from our strivings. There's nothing more of that kind of stuff to do that right now we're bearing up under the weight of. You get to just enjoy the peace of it. And what do you get to enjoy? Your deeds come following you, like like Jesus brought captives in His train following me into heaven, right? Well, our deeds, every last thing you've done, which is written in the book, like ascends up out of the earth and just floats up with you, and you receive a rich man's reward. You receive a reward, and on the last day, a reward for every last thing you do. If you even give a cup of cold water to someone because he bears my name, you will by no means lose your reward. So, are Christians supposed to be ambitious businessmen going after riches? Yes and no. Depends which kind of riches, right? Earthly riches like Wall Street, greedy, going after filthy lucre? No. We don't go after that. We go after riches in heaven. Lay up treasures for yourselves in heaven where no moth and rust and thief, will take it away. So let's try to be very ambitious, in a good way for the kingdom, because our deeds are going to follow us there. And there's going to be a rich reward granted you. And the Spirit is encouraging you, bear up under all the stresses of Antichrist and his kingdom, because you, having patiently endured and kept fast to my name and borne good fruit in light, you're going to be happy. And you're going to be at rest. You're going to be, your work day is almost over. And a rich reward granted you of amazing treasures. So when we die, we already enter into that, but especially at the coming of the Lord, at the final judgment, we really receive our inheritance. So let's be encouraged. Death for a Christian is not death, because we live, and when we live, we go to a better place. That's what he's telling us here, and with greater things coming before us. So, if you treat this life as a vacation like the world does, their labor starts when they die, and that eternally. Our labor right now is temporary, but it results in eternal rest. So they have vacation now and work later. We have work now for a little time and vacation forever. I take that, right? I think it was in Pilgrim's Progress or somewhere that we have our bitter now and then comes the sweet. They take their sweet now and then get their bitter later. I'd rather have the bitter now and the sweet second. For he who laughs last laughs best, right? That's also in the first Pilgrim's Progress, where remember the two guys in the house of instruction, I forget his name, but he showed two guys. One was greedy, grab everything now, but afterwards he had nothing left. The other guy waited, and then he had it. And Christian perceived that it was better to laugh and have your stuff last. Not only do you have it, but you also have it eternally.
In the portrait.
I was at the portrait, yeah. Well, he knows his Pilgrim's Progress. You guys both do. That's awesome. Still working on Christiana, the second book. That's the second book. Ian and Jeannie helped encourage me to start reading the second Pilgrim's Progress, which Beth and I have been enjoying. That's the one that follows. Second half of it. That's right. Yeah.
No one reads.
Right. Okay. So then I looked, verse 14, and lo, a white cloud, and seated on the cloud, one like a son of man with a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. What's a sickle? That's not a motor. No one did it. I shouldn't do that. Well, how's that song go? That's not a. That's a motorcycle. Remember that song? What was that? What was that song? I don't want to pickle. I just want to ride on a motorcycle. No, that was just the same song. But sickle. What is a sickle again? It's a sharp, curved knife with which you reap whatever you're reaping, the wheat or whatever. Yep. And another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to him who sat upon the throne, "Put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come. For the harvest of the earth is fully ripe." So he who sat upon the cloud swung his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. So we're going to see a second parallel to this in just a second. Which one do you think so far is this reaping? The good reaping? Or the reaping of the good, or the reaping of the bad? Reaping of the good. Why?
Doesn't say anything bad.
It doesn't say anything bad, and it's, you said it, the harvest. So God is a farmer. he always uses that image of himself in the scriptures anyway, as a metaphor. He is a farmer, and the earth is his field. And the harvest he's growing up are not good deeds necessarily, although that goes along with it. His harvest is human beings who are his. The wheat that grows up in the earth are Christians. Who plants the seed is God, Jesus Christ, and up comes the seed of Christians, that is saints, that is those who are God's in the world. And so this is the harvest. When? At the end of the world. We're going to see this in Jesus' parables in a second, but the harvest is the end of the age. Jesus even makes that clear in one of his parables. The harvest of the earth is at the end of the age, the end of this world. So can you picture the whole earth right now, the face of the earth? It's a field, God's sitting on his throne above as a farmer, and he's causing the world to produce and grow up crops. And the crops we're talking about here are his saved people, Christians. And there is a harvest time when everything has reached full maturity. Obviously, are we there yet? No. Why?
Because we're still here.
Because we're still here. When the harvest comes, God will not wait a second too longer after that. It'll become time to gather them in. They're in full growth. They're in full fruit. You got to gather fruit at the right time, right? Can't gather it too early, can't gather it too late, just at the right time. And so the farmer always knows when it's time to do that. I would have not a clue. I'm not a farmer, at least that kind. But God knows exactly when everything he's been growing up in the world reaches full capacity of maturity of what he was intending to grow up. He gathers the last person to be saved, the last elect person to come into the kingdom, and he says, that's it. And that's what we're seeing here, is he's sending forth whom to do the reaping?
Angels.
Angels.
Yeah.
Yes, he's sending angels. The angels are the reapers. The angels are the ones whom Jesus sends out to gather God's elect. Gather them up from the four corners of the earth. Bring them in. And this is what John the Baptist says, gather the wheat into my granary, right? But the chaff you will burn with unquenchable fire. So right now we're talking about the wheat, the grain, the good stuff is gathered in. And who does it? We see the angel says, I looked in a white cloud, okay? And seated on the cloud, one like a son of man, which I take to be an angel. It could have been, some people might say this is Jesus, because Jesus comes on the clouds of heaven. But the angels also come in the clouds of heaven. And this one has a golden crown on his head, showing he's royal and holy, and this is good. The gold is the great color and the great metal. And he has a sharp sickle, though. So since he's doing the reaping, this is probably an actual angel, as opposed to the Lord Jesus Christ. Well, it could be maybe Jesus, but I take it to be an angel whom Jesus has sent to do the reaping, because the angels are the reapers. Okay, and then the second angel comes out, calls the guy with a loud voice to the one on the cloud, the other angel, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come. So notice the word hour. There is a time. When is that time? It's not up for grabs. God has fixed a day already, says Paul, way back then, on which he'll judge the world in righteousness by men whom he has appointed, and of this he's given assurance to all men by raising him from the dead. You know, everything according to God happens at the right time. Isn't that lovely? God sent forth his Son when the time had fully come, Galatians 4 says. When the time had fully come. And God foresees it from ancient times. He already knows how long this world has left to go. He doesn't let you and me know, because that would make us either lazy or presumptuous or unduly afraid or something. He hides that secret from everybody, even angels, even the Son of Man, at least in Jesus in his earthly life, and perhaps heavenly too, but perhaps he knows now up there. But there's a time to do it. Remember when Abraham was going to go down to Egypt? Remember that? And God tells him in that vision, your descendants will be sojourners in a foreign land for 400 years. And then this is in Genesis 15, somewhere around there, 17. Anyway, God says, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. In other words, the land of Canaan is wicked now, but it's not reached full measure. Let me show you this one. Yeah, look at Genesis.
What is that?
Yeah, look at, well, God, I'm just trying to talk about timing here. God knows the timing of things.
So he has to wait until they defile the land enough?
Yeah, for him to send Joshua in to totally wipe them out without mercy.
Which is what's happening.
I see.
See, actually, that's in Genesis. It's 15. Yeah, it was 15. This is the vision of the fire pot and the darkness, etc. Just look at verse 13. The Lord said to Abram, know of a surety that your descendants will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs.
Where?
Genesis 15. Let's just start in verse 12 again.
Well,
Genesis 15, verse 12. My point here is just to show that God knows the timing of everything. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and lo, a dread and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know of a surety that your descendants will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be slaves there, and they will be oppressed for 400 years. Where's that? Egypt. So God's foretelling it. But I will bring judgment on the nation which they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. Happened. As for yourself, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. So God determines the length of our days, by the way, so don't be afraid. Am I going to die young? You'll die at the right time, just put it that way, if you're following the Lord. Although the wicked don't live out half their days. And God determines that too. And they shall come back here in the fourth generations, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. Amorites are living in the land of Canaan area, right? They're going to go over here, and I'll take care of you in Egypt. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, back in the promised land, God, it's like a barrel of monkeys or a barrel of oily water being poured into the barrel. Their iniquity has come up the barrel this far. They're that bad right now already. They're horrible. But in 400 years, it's going to keep getting worse there until eventually, leaving the hose on, it's just going to be overflowing the top of the barrel. The iniquity of the Amorites will be complete after 400 years. And therefore, at that time, it'll be just and proper for Joshua to come out and wipe them all out without any mercy, because there's no saving these people. They are at full harvest, or they're at full ripeness of evil. So God not only was working with his people over here, he's letting them continue to get more wicked over here, so that it's time to get rid of them.
Fully redeemed, fully evil.
Fully redeemed, fully evil. Same thing's happening in our days. In our days, the righteous are getting more and more mature, and more people getting saved, and more getting sharper and stronger, while at the same time the iniquity of the wicked, their evil, also reaches its max. So when we live at the end of time, we're really living at the climax of the great royal story, the epic story, when the righteous get the best and the wicked get the worst. Because it has to mimic the Old Testament previews of this, where both sides then are clashing at the end, and wickedness gets really, really, really wicked, such that if God hadn't shortened those days, not a human being could be saved. And yet, that's just preparing for the harvest, preparing for also the gathering of the poisonous weeds. So let's take a look back here, and then we'll keep going a little bit more with a few other verses on that one. Put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come. This is again Revelation 14. For the harvest of the earth is fully ripe. Fully ripe. Are you fully ripe? Or is the world fully ripe? Are Christians fully ripe? Almost. Is the church got everybody in it that's going to be saved? Almost. Not yet, though. But soon, when it's fully ripe, so he who sat upon the cloud, this is at the end of time, swung his sickle on the earth. This is symbolic of the angels going out and gathering God's elect, and the earth was reaped. How long does this reaping take?
One day.
I mean,
It happened in one day.
It's like
The twinkle.
with swift, twinkling of an eye. Swift, they fly on their angelic flights. Yes.
Why is it that we commonly think of the Grim Reaper as not angelic, but kind of gross? But he has a sickle in his hand and he's cutting you down.
He does, because there is, death is a,
It's Smiley Reaper. The first one's a Smiley Reaper.
well, the reapers of angels here, like in Pilgrim's Progress again, remember when Christian and, is it Faithful or Hopeful at the end, dies, and they go up, they've shed, remember their mortal clothing, and they're ascending the mount up to the heavenly city, but now they go much quicker because flesh is not holding them back, and they're greeted with warm smiles and encouraging words, and they hear the sounds of trumpets, and all the bells of the city are chiming and ringing in the towers,
They're glorified.
to welcome them. These angels are not grim reapers, they're happy reapers. Okay, these are the good reapers. These are the happy reapers, if you will, because they're so excited about the sons of God. They are so excited about you as God's children. They're actually your servants at the moment, says Hebrews. They're ministering spirits that are...
Doing God's bidding too, because it's the good, and then they're going to reap the other way.
Yes, they're going to go the other direction too, which is the next couple of verses. But just know that these guys are the happy reapers in terms, their faces are very happy towards those whom they're reaping. I'll put it that way. Because hey, you stood for our great King, and you stood through it through a great test of trial. Oh, welcome, good children of God. Welcome, mighty knights. Welcome, mighty victors of the world and champions in Jesus Christ, God's redeemed of the earth. Oh, we're so joyous to have you. So they're gathering you up in joy.
But it's interesting, in common culture, we don't refer to the happy reapers. It's always the grim reapers.
Yeah, because the world is just, death is scary,
Focus.
and the world just doesn't get anything anyway. He's pictured as a reaper. In fact, and death comes to all, and death is very scary, isn't it? Death is scary in a sense. But Christ has conquered death. So for us, like I've told you a couple sermons ago, don't even think of death as death. Think of it as just a departure. Just say the word departure. That's what it is. It's a departure to a better place for us as Christians, to God, to Christ. So the earth was reaped. Verse 17. And another angel came out of the temple in heaven. Dun, dun, dun. This is the very scary picture. And he too had a sharp sickle. Then another angel came out from the altar. So each angel, there's a reaper angel, and there's one that comes out with a message. It's time, go get them. The one said, it's time, go get the good guys. This one's going to come out and say, it's time, go get the bad guys. But notice, then another angel came out from the altar, the angel who has power over fire. What does that mean? Well, it's interesting. In Revelation, there are angels who have powers over fire, powers over water, powers over various things. Angels have different assignments. This one who has power over fire. What does fire symbolize? Destruction, judgment, condemnation, wrath, hell, because they're going towards a lake that burns with fire and brimstone unquenchable.
It doesn't say over fire, but over the fire.
Over the fire. Oh, really? It says the fire. Okay.
Or maybe it depends on
Yeah, it might depend. Mine says over fire, but it might not be the best translation. I'd have to look in the Greek if it has a definite pronoun to it. Probably does. What are you reading? Which one?
ESV. But if it does,
ESV is probably more accurate. Yeah.
then it suggests that this is
Over the fire.
Yeah, capital F.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, ESV is a little more accurate, although
Maybe
it
not.
loses a little bit of the flower of the RSV, but it's almost 99.9% the same words.
It uses a little more, hyperbole is not the right word, but every time there's kind of an extreme thing being expressed, it elevates the adjectives,
Oh, in the RSV does that.
yeah, R.
The RSV, whenever.
No, the ESV, when you're reading your Bible and I read ours usually has a harsher meaning to it, or more intense meaning to it.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's because they took the RSV, copied it, and made proper, I think, basically proper corrections to make it more accurate. Although it's virtually 99% the same words. If you read it, it's almost the same exact words. This uses a little bit older King James English, and since I memorize a lot of the Bible, it just makes it so much more beautiful when I'm memorizing it. It has a beautiful cadence to it, the flower of the King James English, but in more understanding. And also the RSV will, when it gets to words of God, prayer to God, it'll still throw in the these and the thous, just when it's speaking of prayer to the Father, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like that, but whatever, to each his own. But ESV is a great translation. I like that one. I like that one quite a bit. And there are other good ones. American Standard is very good, accurate, I think. King James, good, although some older manuscripts, not as many. Anyway, we'll get into that some other day. Okay, and another angel came out. The angel of fire. He called with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, put in your sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe. So these are called grapes. Why do you think you choose grapes in this case?
Because they're gonna
Red grapes.
stomp on them.
When you stomp on the grapes, what do they squirt out? Juice. What kind of color juice? Red. What are we going to see here in a few seconds?
Bloodbath.
Blood. Bloodbath, yeah.
The wine.
Yeah, it's like wine, yeah. So the angel swung his sickle on the earth and gathered the vintage of the earth and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God.
Golgotha.
Golgotha? Yeah.
Means wine press.
What?
Means wine press.
Oh, Golgotha means winepress. You know? How did I not know that?
Crushed by the heaviest press of the time, the wine press.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. Golgotha wine press. Good, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. He said Golgotha is a wine press, so that's good. Well, I'm going to look that up.
Base of the skull is the one.
Base of the skull, yeah. I had a professor, not to get onto that one too much, but from Gordon Conwell Seminary, who thought the base of the skull, because it's to the place called the base of the skull, he thought that might be the place where David went back to Jerusalem and buried the skull of Goliath. Interesting thought, isn't it? Because remember, he had Goliath's head, he took it as a prize when he chopped it off. And it's kind of nasty, but he had triumph over his enemy. And remember, the prophecy is that Christ will crush the serpent's head, just as David crushed Goliath's head. And this professor thought perhaps the place of the skull could maybe be where David put Goliath's skull, symbolizing that the greater David is going to come and crush the greater Goliath's skull, the devil's head, on that place, on that very place. I thought that was an interesting thought. I don't think it can be verified, but
I just read recently that supposedly at the base of Golgotha is where Adam is buried.
where who?
Adam is buried.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think the scripture ever mentions where Adam is buried, but that God knows that would be interesting.
Archaeological.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh, interesting. All right, so let's take a look here. And the wine press, so all of the wicked of the earth that are growing up right now, that are kind of troublesome to us as Christians, right? Are you troubled by the wicked?
Yes.
It's very distressing, isn't it?
Yes.
And we hope that they get saved. That's number one. We want them to repent and believe the gospel and become wheat like we are, God's own. But if they don't, and they're growing up terrifying, because when they get to full maturity, their wickedness and evil gets all that much more wicked and evil. And then we don't like that. But they get gathered very quickly by the angels that are sent for the avenging, and they are cast into the winepress of the wrath of God. So that is symbolic of, well, ultimately hell. But the bowl of God's wrath where he throws the grapes. We're going to look at an image of this in the Old Testament where Jesus is the one who's treading the winepress of the wrath of God, and the blood spatters up upon his robes, etc. So he's going to bring vengeance. And the winepress was trodden outside the city. Outside the city. Christians are gathered into the city of God, but those outside will stand and knock, and they can't get in. When once the householder has risen up and shut the door, you'll stand outside and knock, "Open to us. I never knew you, you evil workers." It's too late. And they go away into eternal damnation, the abyss, darkness, and hellfire in the lake. Outside the city. So outside the city, that's also in later Revelation. Outside are the dogs and the sorcerers and the liars and the fornicators and such. All who love and practice falsehood are out. All of those who loved it but confessed it, got saved, were forgiven, redeemed, and then now turned and loved righteousness, being Christians, were in the city. Okay? So, and blood flowed from the winepress as high as a horse's bridle. It's like 5 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
For 1,600 stadia, which is equivalent of basically 200 miles, so I hear. So in other words, a bloodbath, like you say, a bloodbath, yeah. Consider this parable Jesus told in Mark 13. Another parable he put before them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men were sleeping, his enemies came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the householder came and said to him, 'Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then has it weeds?' He said to them, 'An enemy has done this.' The servant said to him, 'Then do you want us to go and gather them?' Does that sound like the angels maybe? The angels are like, 'Aren't you a good God? Look, the earth is filled with wicked people. Do you want us to go now, Lord? Now? Should we go get them?' And what does he say? He says to them, 'No.' Not now, in other words. 'No. Lest in gathering the weeds, getting rid of the evil people, you root up the wheat along with them. If you stop the wicked from doing their wickedness, you're also going to cut short the growing up of the righteous and all their good deeds.' Right? Let them both grow together until the harvest. Who is on the earth together? Wicked people getting more wicked and righteous getting more righteous. Of course, we already have Christ's free gift of righteousness, but you know what I mean, growing up into maturity in Christ. And at the harvest time, which the owner of the field will determine, I will tell the reapers, angels, gather the weeds first, which we saw here. The weeds were wheat. In this case, the weeds first. So this is different from Revelation. Gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. He left the crowds, went into the house. The disciples came and said to him, 'Explain the parable of the weeds of the field.' He answered, 'He who sows this good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed means the sons of the kingdom, and the weeds are the sons of the evil one.' So if there's a good God, why does he allow so much evil in the world? Number one, God doesn't do evil. What he's sowing in the world is good. The devil is the one who's sowing the evil. God could come and get rid of all the evil right now, but if he does, he's going to stop the good that's also growing up. So God says, hold it back, let them both grow for a while. I'll tell you when. All right, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the close of the age. Our present age that we're in, the present evil darkness. And the reapers are angels, says Jesus. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned with fire, so will it be at the close of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers, and throw them into the furnace of fire. There the men will weep and gnash their teeth. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete, but when the barrel is full, into which the devil has put his, hose, it's coming up. Once it starts overflowing, now it's time to reap. Then, and there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There men will weep and gnash their teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has an ear, let him hear. So that's encouraging for us, because we don't like what we see. Coming to mind, like people like Bill Gates or whatever, you're like, why is he saying that he wants to darken the sun to the whole world? That's one of his plans now. Did you hear that one?
Yeah.
And why is he buying up a third of the farmland in America? What's he got up his sleeve? And why is he saying this and that about the vaccine? And why are the Democrats doing what they're doing? Why are some of the Republicans doing what they're doing? Why are the world powers leaders doing what they're doing? We kind of troublesome seeing what some of these things. But God says, no, don't worry about that. Wheat's got to grow up. Weeds got to grow up. They grow together. Don't think that I'm not interested. I'm very interested in my field. I'm watching it every day. I'm writing down everything that the righteous are doing, writing down everything that the evil are doing. You got to let the righteous earn some more rewards, because you got a little time left to earn up more treasures. But you got to let the wicked have their time to gather up a little more of their wrath. They're storing up wrath for themselves, Romans chapter 2 says. You got to let them have their time to store up their wrath while you have more time to store up your good. And then comes the harvest. So that's coming soon. So don't think that God doesn't care, or that his eye isn't on you. His eye is super on you. He knows what he's doing. He's watching over you. And the one who's over you, bearing fruit in and through you, is God. He's the one who sows it. So you're in good shape. Just keep growing. Let the righteous do righteous, we hear at the end of Revelation, and the filthy and the evil still do be filthy and evil. Let the good still do good, let the evil still do evil, and pretty soon there'll be the end, and there'll be the final wonderful conclusion, which we're reading in Revelation. For the Son of Man will come in with his angels in the glory of his Father, then he will repay every man for what he has done. Matthew 16. Matthew 24. He will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And 2 Thessalonians 1, the Lord Jesus is revealed from heaven with his mighty angels in flaming fire, inflicting vengeance upon those who do not know God and upon those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. They shall suffer the punishment of eternal destruction and exclusion from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his might when he comes on that day to be glorified in his saints and to be marveled at in all who have believed, because our testimony to you was believed. And Isaiah 26. Okay, as for the greatness of the judgment, you can go down. As for the greatness of the judgment, behold, the Lord is coming out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, and the earth will disclose the bloodshed upon her and will no more cover her slain. Right. And I'll read this one. Jeremiah 25 says, those slain by the Lord on that day shall extend from one end of the earth to the other, etc. And I'll look at just one other, which was Isaiah. We'll conclude with this one for tonight, because we're at the end of this chapter. But Isaiah 63, if you look at that one. This is a prophecy speaking of Christ. Who is this that comes from Edom in crimsoned garments from Bozrah, he that is glorious in his apparel, marching in the greatness of his strength? It is I, announcing vindication, mighty to save. Why is thy apparel red, and thy garments like his that treads in the winepress? I have trodden the winepress alone, and from the peoples no one was with me. I trod them in my anger and trampled them in my wrath. And their blood is sprinkled upon my garments, and I've stained all my raiment, for the day of vengeance was in my heart, and my year of redemption has come. I looked, but there was no one to help. I was appalled, but there was no one to uphold. So my own arm brought me victory, and my wrath upheld me. I trod down the peoples in my anger. I made them drunk in my wrath, and I poured out their lifeblood on the earth. So that's also in Revelation, where Jesus treads the winepress of the wrath of God. The reapers gather, and Christ is the one bringing the judgment, treading the winepress. You think of, remember Lucy? I dream of Lucy. That's Jeannie. But I Love Lucy, right? Remember, she was in the winepress, and she's going around and trying to. That's what you tread the winepress. Well, that's what Christ will do, in mighty victory and glory, in righteous judgment, and it's a righteous judgment. But he's also here saving the souls of the righteous. Yes.
So he was crushed for us. And now he crushes the.
That's the amazing thing. Yeah, he was trodden, if you will, in a sense, by God. The winepress of his wrath he bore on our place, that we, covered in his blood, spattered upon our garments, redeemed we are. But then he comes in judgment upon those who are not his as well, and he saves those who are his. So we're done for this one.
I meant Gethsemane, by the way, not Golgotha.
What?
Gethsemane, not Golgotha.
Oh, Gethsemane.
Gethsemane means winepress.
Gethsemane means winepress. Good.
Golgotha means skull.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Gethsemane
Good.
is winepress.
Gethsemane. It means winepress. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
So that's the strongest crushing force they had at the time.
Wow. Excellent. Very good. So take heart, Christians. Don't worry. World gets more wicked. This means Christ's coming. Let's try to save who we can. Keep doing your good. Mind your own business. Keep to your kingdom task. Let them deal with their kingdom's task. God's going to take care of that. You just deal with our kingdom's task, which is the one that's eternal. And leave God to do the taking care of you, right? Yeah. No problem. It's good for us. We're at the top. We're at the harvest, full time coming. We're just getting better. They're getting worse, but we're getting better. So remember, you're always getting better. Don't let their getting worse scare you. You're getting stronger too, in good, in the Lord. So that's what he does when he grows us up in Christ. Anything else? God's blessings to you.